Everywhere you look around, there's a logo connected to a company, whether big or small. And today, we are going to get into the origin of Ford. Henry Ford, founder of Ford Motor Company, was born in Springwells Township, Wayne County, Michigan, on July 30th, 1863, to Mary Liddegott and William Ford. He was the eldest of 6 children in a family of 4 boys and 2 girls. His father was a native of County Cork, Ireland, who came to America in 1847 and settled on a farm in Wayne County. By 12 years old, a young Henry Ford showed a lot of interest in mechanics and how they worked. When Ford was 13 years old, his father gifted him a pocket watch, which the young Ford took apart and reassembled. Friends and neighbors were so impressed and requested that he fix their timepieces too. By 15 years old, he constructed his first steam engine. Unsatisfied with farm work, Ford left home at the age of 16 to take an apprenticeship as a machinist at a shipbuilding firm in Detroit. Although he did not like working on the farm, he did learn that there was great value in working hard and being responsible. During his apprenticeship, he received $2.50 a week, but room and board cost $3.50, so he labored nights repairing clocks and watches. He later worked for Westinghouse, locating and repairing road engines. Ford's father wanted him to be a farmer and offered him 40 acres of timberland, provided he give up machinery. Ford accepted the proposal, then built a first-class machinist workshop on the property. His father was disappointed, but Ford did use the 2 years on the farm to win a bride named Clara Bryant. In 1890, Ford was hired as an engineer for the Detroit Edison Company. In 1893, his natural talents earned him a promotion to chief engineer. All the while, Ford developed his plans for a horseless carriage. In 1892, Ford built his first gasoline-powered buggy, which had a 2-cylinder, 4-horsepower engine. In 1896, he constructed his first model car, the quadricycle. In the same year, he attended a meeting with Edison executives and found himself presenting his automobile plans to Thomas Edison. The enlightened genius encouraged Ford to build a second, better model. Their friendship actually went on to the end of their lives, and in the end, it was Ford who was now helping his mentor out on Edison projects. In 1899, the Detroit Edison Company forced Ford to choose between automobiles and his job. Ford chose cars and that year formed the Detroit Automobile Company, which collapsed after he disagreed with his financial backers. His next venture was the unsuccessful Henry Ford Automobile Company. Ford did gain some status through the building of racing cars, which resulted in the 999, driven by the famous Barney Oldfield. Ford came up with an idea to sell his cars for low prices and for the masses of people to buy, but it did not respond well with them because they looked at cars as only being for the rich. After Ford's success with the 999 race car, Alex McColson, a Detroit coal dealer, offered to aid Ford in a new company. The result was the Ford Motor Company, founded in 1903, with its small $28,000 financing supplied mostly by McColson. However, exchanges of stock were made to obtain a small plant, motors, and transmissions. Ford's stock was in return for his services. Much of the firm's success can be credited to Ford's assistants, James Couzens, C.H. Wills, and John and Horace Dodge, who were the creators of the Dodge Company. By 1903, there were over 1,500 companies trying to get in and become in a struggling automobile industry, but only a few were able to survive, such as Ransom Eli Olds, who created the Oldsmobile. In the same year, Ford copied the Oldsmobile and came out with the production of the Model A and eventually went all the way up to S. The masses loved it, and by the year 1907, the Ford company flourished. In 1909, Ford made the important decision to manufacture only one type of car, the Model T, or the Tin Lizzie, which received its name because old Liz looked like the worst, was unpainted, and lacked a hood. Many spectators compared old Lizzie to a tin can. But no matter how bad it looked, when old Liz got into a race, it won and received notoriety all around. By now, he firmly controlled the company, having bought out McColson. The Model T was durable, easy to operate, and economical. It sold for $850 and came in one color, black. Within 4 years, Ford was producing over 40,000 cars per year. Because Ford used the assembly line to produce the cars very fast, by 1925 he was able to drop the cost from $850 to below $300. Ford built 15 million Model T cars between 1918 and 1927. The Model T came in 3 designs, all mounted on a 100-inch wheelbase chassis. The first one was the 5-seat touring car, then the 2-seat runabout, and then the 7-seat town car. Ford dabbled and had an unsuccessful career in the political scene during World War I. He got caught up in a suit against the Chicago Tribune for calling him an anarchist, which is a person who desires to change the existing government, and he received unfortunate publicity for that. In 1918, his race for the U.S. Senate as a Democrat met a narrow defeat. Ford's worst mistake was his approval of an anti-Semitic campaign waged by the Ford-owned newspaper, the Dearborn Independent. Ford published a number of anti-Semitic pamphlets, including a 1921 pamphlet, The International Jew, the world's foremost problem. Ford was awarded the Grand Cross of the German Eagle, the most important award Nazis gave to foreigners, by Adolf Hitler in 1938. To try and save face, Ford ended up producing a lot of the military equipment during the war and promised to give back all the profits, which he never did, but it was enough to silence the critics. Because Ford was so inflexible and much dependent on the Model T, by the mid-1920s, the public's taste in cars shifted and a new company became number one, and that company is called General Motors. Ford stopped the production of the Model T by 1927 and started on the Model A that took 18 months to complete and caused a lot of layoffs. But at the end, it still wasn't enough to beat the GM's Chevrolet model, and Ford still remained in second place. There was also a time in Ford's life where he worked with George Washington Carver, the man who discovered the use of over 300 products with peanuts. Ford and Carver met in the late 1930s, and the reason was for Ford to find an alternative method and cleaner way to produce fuel energy for cars. In the 1940s, huge oil fields were being discovered, and it was more cost-effective than plant-based oil. Even though the idea was not used, they still remained friends till the end of their lives. Ford engaged in activities such as the Henry Ford Hospital in Detroit. The original purpose of the Ford Foundation, established in 1936 and now one of the world's largest foundations, was to avoid estate taxes. Ford's greatest philanthropic accomplishment was the Ford Museum and Greenfield Village in Dearborn, Michigan. He had a stroke in 1938 that slowed him down but continued to operate the company because he did not trust his son Edsel. Ford's grandson, Henry Ford II, took over the company after the World War II, and Henry Ford died on April 7, 1947 in Dearborn. In 1998, a lawsuit filed in Newark, New Jersey, accused the Ford Motor Company of profiting from forced labor of thousands of people at one of its truck factories in Cologne, Germany, during World War II. The Ford Company, in turn, said the factory was under the control of the Nazis, not the American corporate headquarters. To this day, Ford is still going strong and the company's net worth is about $200 billion. If you enjoyed this video and want to be updated on new brands and companies, please hit the like button, subscribe, and share. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more companies coming up.